Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. So the crowds get a little smaller as the day goes on. Not much difference than when you go to a conference, is it? And it's almost worse than being the person between you and lunch to be between you and maybe a ride home or a ride to the mall or a ride out to dinner with your colleagues this evening. And so we're going to be pretty direct, okay? Um, Good afternoon again. Thank you for coming this afternoon. Thank you for being in the session. I look about around the room and I see a lot of friends because see a lot of faces that we all see when we come here or we come to SCADA in the fall. A lot of us have been doing the work for a while now, but I also see some new faces. And where I was in Anna's session last time, and she said, who's only been doing it a couple of years? Raise your hand if you've been doing a federal programs type job for less than 3 years. Okay. Raise your hand if you've been doing a federal programs type job for 15 plus years. There's fewer of our hands up than it is anybody else's, right? I'm always going to say the first set of hands, the second set of hands are your best friends because a lot of what all of us have learned, we've learned from each other. We have a great support system in South Carolina, and I can say that because I've had the pleasure of working with a lot of different states at the national level, and we have one of the best by far. And I don't say that because they're sitting in the room with us. I say that because I really mean it. We have relationships with folks, and that makes a big difference between our SEAs and our LEAs. But you also have a wealth of knowledge that sit in these rooms with each other. And there's not many things that most of us have ever had to invent all by ourselves because somebody gave us a great idea or somebody shared something with us that they did, and we can all tweak it and make it our own and make it work for our own districts. And so as you sit through tomorrow's meetings again, I really would encourage you to take those great ideas. Most all of us love to share with each other and make them your own and use them to make your district better. I'm from Berkeley County, South Carolina. My name's Denise Ling, and this is my 25th year in federal programs. So to say that I found my niche early, I had a great predecessor who said he saw something that thought I could do this job. I'm like, Anna, I think it was my OCD, my attention to detail, and it was going to be done right, or I wasn't going to do it. But I had some great teachers along the way, some great mentors along the way. And so the things that I share with you from Berkeley County, I promise you, I got those ideas from other folks. It worked for them, it would work for us, and then we just build upon those things. Our school district is about 39,000. We have 49 schools. 21 of those are Title I's, but 33 of them are designated in some way. And so the work that we do in our office, in the Office of Federal Programs, is really twofold. We manage federal grants, and we do everything except IDA and Perkins. Excuse me. And then we handle school improvement. But just as somebody said earlier, that they see a true intentionality over the last year or so and moving forward of our SEA helping us see school improvement as school improvement. It doesn't matter who pays for what. It doesn't matter what you do with it. It's all about school improvement. That's the work we do and the job we're in. It doesn't matter what grant we use in our office, and it doesn't matter who does the work, but that's our focus, that's our mission and our vision for what we do. And so, like other folks, I'm just going to share a few resources that we do in our district, how we organize ourselves, because that's something that people always ask. What does your office look like? How many people do you have? How do you organize the work? Well, we're not the biggest district, but we're fairly large in regards to other districts within the state. And it can't all look alike. We're not all the same, so it can't be a cookie cutter model. You have to figure out what works for you and where you have the leverage points within your district to make a difference. So our theme for this year in our office is what you see up here, raising the bar, maximizing the impact, and measuring the success. Because we say those are the three things we have to do better every year that we work. So I told you we're 39,000 plus students, 48 schools, 22 Title I. We're really 33 state identified with 9 underperforming schools. So if we did that by percentage, probably not that far off from some of our other neighbors in large districts. The way our Office of Federal Programs stands is not the way it always looked, because when I started in the office, I was the secretary, the coordinator, the specialist, and the assistant director. And the gentleman who hired me had 2 years left and he was walking out the door. And he said, "You got 2 years with me and then it's yours, and we need to figure out what that's going to look like for you." And so I really did have a great mentor. And before there was school designations, there was one leg in our office, and that's what we did. We did Title I, Title II, Title III. We don't have NMD anymore because our site's closed, but we did the NMD grant, and we do an immigrant grant, and we handled state categorical funding, which doesn't really exist anymore because it's all been backpacked and it just all comes as the general fund now. But when school designations came around and somebody needed to handle that, I think our superintendent, who is a great visionary, saw it very much as, here's something that's got to have some really good compliance behind it. We have to be able to put a plan in place and make it move. And for no better place, he gave it to us. I didn't mind because we've always had a theory or a concept in our heads that what we did was school improvement. We just always did it with federal funding. So to now be able to say, we're doing school improvement and we're doing it for the sake of school improvement. And it doesn't matter who's got the money, and it doesn't matter what money it is, but it's all about school improvement. For us, kind of fell within that same vision. So they allowed me 2 years ago to build two teams, and really look at two legs within our office, the Office of Federal Programs, as a federal grants team and school improvement team. And within our office, there's 3 people in each one of these boxes. I also have 2 support staff. We have a financial specialist within the office that helps with the finance piece. She is not the finance person from our finance office. She's just a financial secretary and a secretary. So there's 9 of us in our office. You'll see our school improvement side handles the designations along with the grants that are there, and we can drop off NMD now. And our federal grants office handles the 5 grants on this side. And that's kind of how we approach our work, not separated and not isolated. Because the person who's working with the school over here is also over here, are working within the office together, although there's 2 support staff that help that school. So the way we defined our motto for this year, the raising the bar, the maximizing the impact, and the measuring the success, really was around the idea of planning, of implementing, and then of evaluating. We just used better words this year, I think. And you can tell most of us are elementary, not everybody, but we love a good thing. We love to plan around one. But you'll see with a few of the slides that we go through where we really have concentrated on setting some high expectations. We do that through multiple actions within the office, and then maximizing the impact. And I think this is where I believe over the last 10 years of my career, the biggest difference has been. Because we always planned and we always evaluated. But what you do and the success we reach is done in the middle. It's done between those 2 pieces. And I think that for a long time, in my earlier years, it was about the compliance. It was about doing that and then measuring it, but it was not about paying attention to what happened in the in-between time. And the in-between time is where the good work happens. And then as we measure success, because goal setting is so important these days to what we are trying to achieve, then being able to prove you did it is pretty important too. So the couple of the things that we do. And I laughed. I told Diana, I said, I sat through hers and I think I wrote down 4 things I want to go back and do because she had great ideas I wanted to see. Okay. But what if you were sitting in her session and saw what Greenville does, you'll see alignment to some of the things that we do, but we do them just a little bit different because they have to suit your district. They have to mean something to the people in your district, and not just the words or what we call things, but the work that's involved in them. So one of the things that we did, of course, is we really grabbed on to the SIP. And Miss Mack is back here, and Miss Stanley's back here. And if I had to say there are 2 people at the State Department right now that I am going to truly follow the advice that I'm giving, it's these 2 ladies. Because they are guiding the work in our office right this minute. But there are some great things about the SIP that as an old Title I person, I thought are really good use for. So in Title I, of course, we have GEMS, we have our grant application, and that's a template. That's what we build upon. But we build in Berkeley, we build it in a Google form because our school level folks don't have access to GEMS. They have to build it in a template and then we move it over to GEMS. But in our SIPs, there are a lot of the same essential elements that we needed schools to understand. Now, about half of the schools designated in Berkeley are not Title I schools. So this idea of putting a team of people together that are your stakeholders, listening to your parents, listening to your community members, building a plan that is really inclusive. Yes, they do school renewal planning, and yes, they have school improvement teams, but it isn't the same. That's not the same language. There are things you do, and there are things you really do. Title I schools really do that work. The rest of us kind of step through the pieces and parts of it, but it's not embedded in their core. The SIP helped our schools that were not Title I move towards that, I believe, and it's made their school improvement plan, their school renewal plans much better for it. But yes, one of the ways that we really appreciate the SIP from the school improvement side is it set a bar. It set the expectation for schools that had not had to set those expectations for themselves before, and they did it through truly writing goals, and then the accountability of going back and measuring those goals to see if we're making progress. Another way that we feel like we've made strides this year is in goal setting, just in that simple action. Because how many times have we seen our district strategic plan and our school renewal plans set goals, pretty lofty goals over the years, but not necessarily measure themselves every year to see how close they're getting? And I believe that the accountability of doing a better job of goal setting and then truly measuring the annual progress towards it, and now with benchmarks set in there, whether it's 30, 60, 90, 120, or whether it's, just mid-year evaluation, really is making us get to where we need to be to say we're moving. Not we hope we get there, but we will get there. And if we're not there by mid-year, then we're going to do something about it. We need to change what we're doing. Goal setting is great, but aligning goals is just as important. So I'd say the first year into school improvement, where there were SIPs, and in Title I, where there's strategies, but not necessarily SMART goals, we backed ourselves up and said we're really going to align our goals. Because what we saw was if you pulled the goals from the 5 different plans the school had to write, because they wrote those plans at different times of the year, the goals looked different. So one of the activities we did with our Title I schools earlier in the year was we said, all right, bring your school renewal plan, bring your PD plan, your GT plan, your Read to Succeed plan, your Title I plan, and anything else in your building that has a student achievement goal, and pull the goals out and put them on a piece of paper. And what we found is the alignments were not there. I might have had 5 goals around mine. One was on my stretch goal, one was on my typical growth, one was to hope I'm here, but none of them were taking me in the same direction. It was like that picture that we have seen in school improvement or in Title I planning before, where you've got the bullseye, but the arrows are all going in a different direction. It's kind of the way it was starting to look. And so what we're moving towards now is once we write that district strategic plan goal, really helping schools align their goals from the broad to the very focused in their building to make sure that we're all moving in the same direction. Because if this is my district goal and it is going to be built off of the state goal, and my Title I goal, which I would say is my most focused on this piece for this school, isn't moving in the same direction, measuring the same type of thing, then the 49 schools here will never help me as a district reach this one. Because we're all trying to do something different. We've got to align goals. So one other small tweak that I think Berkeley is doing a better job of is definitely goal alignment. And I think that we can all say that if we don't try to get our schools all moving in the same direction, there's no way we're all going to be reaching our district goals. So the CNA, and since our SCA folks are in here, I'm hoping they love me enough to accept this as an old person's view. The CNA is the most important part of Title I, in my opinion. It guides and directs everything I need to do. It tells you why I need to do it. If you're not a persuasive writer, your CNA probably is not as strong as it could be, because I believe that is where you tell your story. That's where you convince me of why you need to do what you do. But it's the one part of Title I that's never had a template. It's never had a true rubric that said everybody's needed to be here, not here. And I'll go back 10 years to the school renewal plans, where your narrative was your report to parents to tell them how good you were. But it was never your needs assessment, because your needs assessment needs to tell me what you need, not how good and beautiful and wonderful your school is. And so internally, because we're all doing the same thing a different way, internally we created a template for CNAs for Berkeley County. And this is as much for our own sanity as it is for anything else, but there needed to be a level of consistency and a rubric to a certain extent to make sure every one of our schools was working just as hard as the other was to tell their story and to make sure that people could understand it. I also happen to believe that if you can create consistency inside your district, that it really helps your ed associate understand your plan better, and probably even may help it get approved faster. So when you're in a big district, that can be kind of important when your plan is really big in the end. But we went through, and for all purposes, it meets everything that we know has to be there as an essential element. But then we also get to fold in the important things that make Berkeley County unique in itself. And so there are some pieces and parts here that within the general description must be there. And because of the way that our schools write their plans, and we do this in an annual cycle, where in January they're starting to form this, and in February they bring another part, and in March they bring another part. And if you get halfway through that list and it's not there, I'm just handing it back to you, because it has to be there before you come back to me again. But this type of consistency, if you don't have a system in your district, is pretty important. That system is going to help you do your job better, but it's also going to bring meaning to the work that the schools do within your plan. And so that is another way that we believe we've raised our own bar just a little bit. Now, I thought this was neat because Anna had a rendition of this, and School Improvement had a rendition of this. And I think it's really cool because it just shows how each one of us takes information and makes it meaningful for ourselves. So you all know the circle in the middle. That's the school improvement piece. I've seen that in 3 presentations today already. And you'll see some information around the edges of that. And within the boxes, you'll see the words talent, instruction, systems, and culture. And those read for our district: systems, culture, instruction, and talent. And we call that the SKIT. And for us, we have a principal's report card, or a scorecard, it's called, where those 4 domains sit on their evaluation template. We are a district that works with the University of Virginia through some of their professional development pieces, and they helped us create this scorecard for our own district. Within the SKIT domains for a principal's evaluation, you'll see the bullets that talk about what those areas mean. And yes, they still do the South Carolina principal evaluation, but this is internal for us. And then we layered on top of that the numbers, which are the reform strategies for Title I. Because what we had was this system where in Berkeley we have Title I facilitators in every building, and they do the work of Title I, including the work of really formulating the plan. But what I had was a whole bunch of principals who couldn't connect it to their own work. So they're doing their evaluation out here, and we're writing this Title I plan, and it's like they're still just doing their evaluation out here. But what they weren't doing was really connecting to the work that Title I was, and understanding that a good Title I plan was helping them be a good principal and get their evaluation accomplished. And so we had to find a way to make it meaningful to our principals. And so we've layered the parts and pieces to connect the Title I work back to our Title I's our principals' evaluation, in the sense that they understand their role in it better, but they understand how Title I is now helping them be a better leader and get their evaluation accomplished. So in our way, we felt like that connected the work back to them. I don't think we have near as many principals in our district that think we are just an extra pot of money anymore. I think in my early years we did. But they understand that the work they do through Title I is really the work that they are judged on by their supervisors. And that made a big connection for us in how seriously they take their plans. Again, I talked to you about building 2 teams out. Up until 2 years ago, those 2 teams had 1 coordinator each. And the next thing that the superintendent allowed us to do in building teams was to hire what we call academic support specialists. Lori Elliott's in the audience, and she is one. She is over here on the school improvement team. And so our coordinators became team leaders, and they run team PLCs with their folks. But this is how we get out and get the work done, in the sense that they are the point of contact for their school. They know their school's data. They work shoulder to shoulder, which is really where the important stuff gets done with each of their schools. And as they do that, they become the support staff in that school. Lori went and met with a brand new principal last week, and I got an email that said, "Oh my goodness, I just, found my new best asset for my school." When they start appreciating the work you do with them and not just for them, then they see you as part of that team and part of what's going to get accomplished at their building. And there's an appreciation there that I don't think there used to be. So I believe that that is an improvement in Berkeley County as well. So we talk about not just maximizing our impact on our teams, but also this kind of crosses over to measuring as well. So as we go out and work with schools, we tier our schools just like you tier students in an MTSS program. We have Tier 1 schools, Tier 2, Tier 3. And we look at where they are on that system, not just based on the fact that they have a school improvement or a school designation identification or not, matter if they're a Title I school, but a lot of different factors. I think about who's got a brand new principal in their building. Never been a Title I principal before. Who's got a brand new facilitator that's never been a Title I facilitator before. What grade configurations have changed because in a fast growing district, we're either moving attendance lines or changing grade configurations every year just to accommodate students as developments open in different communities pop up. After we do that, then we talk about what initial visits look like and the initial work we do with the school and a school team each year, as well as what follow up looks like. And it's very customized based on what the school needs. And that's where the specialists really come in handy because they understand and they build those relationships. And when they go in, I'm sure what Lori does not always look like what Carrie does. Although we have a standard that we're going by as far as what we're developing and delivering to them, it is definitely geared by what the school needs or the school team needs. Sometimes that's a lot more data work than another school does. Sometimes that's let me go on learning walks with you or let me go watch, model teachers. It really depends on where their gaps are and what they need from us as to how we help serve them. And this is something different we've done too. When we built the teams, and it was bringing on 4 new people in the office at one time and doing something we hadn't done before, school designations. We were getting ready to work with probably almost a dozen schools we had never worked side by side with before because they were not Title I schools. And so one of the ways that I asked the team to do that is we spent about the first month of school building school profiles for every school. Because yes, there are dashboards and there is SC Lead and there's a dozen different places where you can go find out something about a school, but there was no one place where we could go say, this is what that school looks like. This is going to tell us what that school needs from us. And so we created something called what we called as a school profile. And you'll see that there are sections of it, and this was just the first rendition because it's been changed over time. We looked at it and said, wow, my schools need something different. Lori helped us recognize through her work with this year that high schools need to look different than elementary schools. There was no one template that was going to serve everybody. But through this, our office filled it in and said, this is how we get to know the schools. This is how we know the little things we need to do. Now, one of the most impactful ways this got used is when a specialist walked in a building for the very first time to sit down with the principal. They didn't say, tell me about your school. They told them about their school. And there was at least a handful of principals that went, whoa. Somebody's looked at me enough to know something about me before I walk in here. Or to be able to have the conversation. I noticed this in your data. Have you ever thought of doing this? We didn't take time for them to tell us what. Yes, now they tell us what they need, but that's because we have a relationship with them. But we didn't take our lead from them. It was about getting them jump started to do something that some of them really have never done the hard work like that before. This is different and it looks different. Like I said, this was like the first rendition, the simplest version possible. Now, the way I believe that's going to flip is that for 2 years we filled it out as a way to get to know the schools. This year we hand this to the principals and they fill it out and keep it up all year long. And it's the one place where they go and put all their data in one place. Very similar to where Anna talked about having a landing page. You've got to find a way to help the principal in the building organize the work they need to do for you and with you in a way that they can actually accomplish it. Because they, every day, all day long, are still dealing with angry parents and school issues. And their job is to do those things above and beyond all things. They are to keep our children safe. They are to make sure learning is happening. The work they do with us cannot It will not take precedent over those things. It can't. That's what they are hired to do. So we have to make it doable for them. We have to make it digestible, and we have to make it doable. And so this was one of the ways we felt like we could get them going on that. I love this slide, but it's not the easiest thing to look at nor to explain. We work very closely with our Director of Accountability and Data and Assessment. She does lots and lots of different things within our district. But explaining to a school how they got identified has never been easy. And even when we think we now can say the words with confidence and understand it, I was real proud of myself this morning when I could do thumbs up and the thumbs down and get them right. Seeing the bigger picture of that is really hard to do. And one of the things I think is most important about school improvement designations is the trend piece. But what we recognize is a lot of our principals in these schools stepped into this mid-cycle. They weren't there from the year they were identified originally. They're stepping into it in year 4 and 5. And then they have to try to figure out and understand, how did we get here so that I can move us out of here? And so one of the things that Dana Cousins, who's our director, helped us create were these subgroup sheets and these overall score sheets that principals, and we could use sitting shoulder to shoulder with principals to help them see how they got there. So very similar to what Joey was doing this morning on the slides, we could sit down with principals, give this to them, and point out, this was your year of identification. This was your overall score. Here were your subgroup achievement scores. This is what you needed to make. If this, then this. If not, here we go. This is the next step. And we've done that now with them in a shoulder to shoulder, but also in front of the big group, because they all need to know where they are in the big picture as well as in their individual one. So we do have a large handful of schools that are in their second cycle, some not exited, some re-identified. Understanding where they were and understanding what they might be expecting in 25 was really important to them. But this is building capacity in your school leaders, because they don't have the time to go home after work, look up all this stuff and try to figure it out for themselves. You're educating them through the process as much as anyone else. So I'm going to go back and flip back to Title I. And I guess you can see that I'm not that confused. We really do just move back and forth between the two legs of our office as seamlessly as possible. The other thing that we noticed in Title I was that, like I said, the good work is done in the middle between the planning and the evaluating. That's where people get stuck. And I'll make a confession with Sarah and Martha sitting here. Berkeley is a district that struggles with hitting that Title I 15% at the end of the year. I think I know why. We give 80% of our money to the schools, and they don't spend it. I could spend every dollar at the district office, and in a $9 million grant still have more sitting at the school at the end of the first 12 months than we could have. And what we discovered was, as we went in and worked with Title I schools, and I bet we're not that different than everybody else, was that you'd get there and they'd have this wonderful strategy. And you'd say, where are we? Well, we're going to start that next month. And you go back next month, and we're going to start that next month. I had an issue. It didn't quite start where we wanted. And it was the things that never got started. And they were great ideas, and life just kept getting in the way. And the daily work kept getting in the way, and they just never got started. And so what we did was we sat down at the beginning of the year and helped them write true implementation plans. And so we moved from their goals and their strategies to say, now take that strategy and let's put it on a calendar. When do you plan to start? When do you need to pull the data? What are your hurdles? What do we need to think about? Do we need to post positions? Do we need to get account numbers? What do we have to do to get you going? And then every month when they go back in for support, they go back and they revisit those strategies, but they revisit them by steps. And what we found out this year is we do believe more strategies are getting started and getting done, and therefore I'm trying to meet the spending goal, but it's accomplishing that in the way. We always did a mid-year evaluation on every strategy and an end-of-the-year evaluation, but this is like a monthly benchmark in the middle of that, because it's really saying, I'm not going to have that many teachers tutoring, or we didn't get that many families to come in. So now I'm also looking at what's getting spent, what's not getting spent. Where do we need to make the adjustments along the way? So we're not getting to the end of 12 months and saying, did we do it or not? We are really moving along at a better pace and doing it in smaller chunks. Mid-year evaluations, we moved from just pulling the data to asking guiding questions. So it's not just what does your data look like at the middle of the year. It's let's sit down and let's ask a set of guiding questions that tell me more than just what numbers do. So that's our mid-year, and then the end of the year, there are guiding questions that are a little bit different because they're reflective, because at that end of the year, I'm also building the needs assessment for the next year. And so I'm flipping my evaluation into my needs assessment for the next year. Copy of the end of the year evaluation with those guiding questions in it. And then SIPs. We've done something just a little bit different with our SIPs, and I've been real proud of how our principals have handled this. But as with all of us, when we do school designation and we've got that 30-day, 60-day, 90-day review, we turn those into in-person presentations. So the principals took a template that we built so that there were essential pieces and parts to every presentation. The principals gathered their data with the help of the specialists, and they came to a district team and made that presentation. Talk about owning what you're doing or not doing in your building. It's yours, and you've got to stand there and talk about it. What it also did, though, on the flip side of that, because I don't want to make it seem like we were just holding them accountable, it also gave the district team a glimpse into what a school needed that we were not hearing from them. The principal that never said, I really need somebody to come help me with the 10 brand new teachers I've got this year, and I just don't have the capacity to support them. The whole district team was sitting there saying, we can do that PD for you. Let me come in and help you do some classroom observations in your SPED classrooms. We had representatives from the different offices at the district level. So we had a SPED coordinator, we had math and ELA in the room, we had the PD office in the room. We had the superintendent sometimes, or the associate superintendent sometimes. We had the principal evaluators in the room. And it's us now offering what we can do instead of just depending on the principals to ask for it. I would say we have better relationships between those types of support staff at our district level and our principals than ever before. And our principals know that we're doing the work with them. We're not just trying to hold them accountable for it, but they see us as helpers. And that building relationships in that way is really important too. It's not that pretty and perfect for every school. There has to be a desire to get better. And there are principals out there for whatever reason who have either lost their hope or sometimes maybe at the end of a career, and that is a harder conversation for them than others. But there are others who are really welcoming the help into their building. Reliability. And again, sometimes you stand up here and you talk about the good things you're thinking you're doing, and you know that you could get called later and somebody tell you shouldn't do that. Take the risk, it's worth it. One of the things that you have to do is when you get to those benchmarks with school designation, you're supposed to update those on track, lagging, or at risk for your goals. What we recognized in our district internally was that those three things meant different things to different people. And depending on me as the principal, how I wanted to view the data allowed me to choose which one of those I thought I might. So our team created a reliability test for that. And so in Berkeley, when somebody says they're on track, it means the same thing. Or lagging, it means the same thing. So when we make that update to the school board, it was not a choice of words the principal chose to give us, but that data has been looked at to create a reliability piece. That was internal, but we really felt like it was important to the story we were trying to tell with our schools. Other thing that we thought was good, and again, we don't think we do it perfect, but I'm just trying to share some of the things we think have made a difference for us. Our principals, our admin teams do summer learning. So they have a couple days in June, a couple days in July where they get together. Our 120-day SIP last year became a summer showcase where all of our schools that were designated had an opportunity to stand in front of their peers and talk about their most impactful strategy and then show the data, the pre and the post for it. We had slappers and we had pom poms and we gave out prizes and all kinds of things to help them understand. Not all of them had met their goals for the year, but the progress they made was what was important. And sometimes you have to celebrate that progress so that they do eventually make that goal and they don't lose hope. But if you look at the presentation later, there's a couple of schools up here that we really thought that the way they approached this, and they created their own slides, so they created their own celebration, let's say. I think that we will do this again if we get the chance, but it was a great way to measure their success in a way that they got to put their personal touch on it. So did we get all our schools off the list in the first year? No, we didn't. It's going to take a little while longer than that. But what we were happy about this year is that we decreased the number of ATSI second cycle. We had 5 that were part of the mid-cycle exit. And a couple we think will hold tight for 25 and be off of the list. But we saw a lot of growth in a lot of places. That one, we could, definitely help those principals understand what they're doing and the progress they're making towards the goals that they're setting. And that's it. Did I do okay? Yeah, I got you out. Say that again. I said I love what I do. I really do. I believe in what we do. And for that reason, it's 25 years of doing everything 1 year at a time because we have to deal with change and we have to adjust to whatever's coming at us. And we have to do it with a smile on our face a lot of times and a lot of grace in class because we're the middle person. We're the person that's taking the panic over here and the school over here that's already struggling with things, and we're trying to make those things connected for them. So, if there is anything you take from somebody else here this week, and from the great resources that we have from our state department, take those and make them your own. Figure out how they work for you. And if you created something that you've never seen anybody at one of these things share, you need to share it because we can all learn from each other. And I would just always encourage people to do that. I have definitely enjoyed my 25 years based on the people I have worked with over that time and the folks I have learned from. And they have been some mighty, mighty people in the state of South Carolina. I'm happy to share anything you saw up here that isn't linked. Just, get in touch with me. We are happy to share in Berkeley County. Just change our name, take our name off of it when you go to use it, okay? The joke with anybody from Buford, we are BCSD, you are BCSD. We can get away with that, but not everybody else can. Okay? All right. If y'all don't have any questions, I think I'm the end of the day.